His mistress made him a better husband. I feel nauseous. This is a throwaway. I'm just nauseous and want a vent. Please let me do it here. Everything changed about 3 years ago and my husband became my dream man. Before that, we suffered a lot in our marriage. After 2 hard pregnancies and PPD, my libido was diminished and we fought all the time. After 4 years of dead bedroom, we started therapy. I thought that was where the improvement came from. My husband started paying attention to me. In the beginning I was panicking because whenever he paid me attention before he expected sex, but now it felt like he was seeing me as a human being for the first time. He was attentive and caring. Emphatic. He touched and cuddled and kissed me out of the blue without wanting sex in return. He started helping around the house, bringing me flowers, take out dinners when I work late, planning date nights. Anniversaries, birthdays and holidays are planned perfectly and I started getting the most beautiful and thoughtful gifts. When we fought, he would come the next day and admitted his wrongs and very accurately if he was the one in the wrong, something he never did before. He would apologize too when back in the days him apologizing would be a blow to his ego. He said he was happy all the time and lucky to have us as his family. Everything was better and I even got my libido back, if not as high as I hoped. I found their conversation about 5 days ago and I have probably spent over 50 hours reading them. 3 years worth of conversation. He would tell her his woes and she would listen. 99 out of 100 times she sided with me. She taught him about intimacy and how important it is in marriages. The tragically funny part is that he never got angry or offended by her telling him off, calling him silly, stubborn, or at times man baby. Her honesty was brutal and yet he agreed with her. She was the one suggesting all the changes and he would ask her for advice about gifts, traveling and all the beautiful things he did for our family. He thanks her all the time for helping him turn his miserable home life around, making it tolerable. With all these texts, there were the texts between them that are about them like nobody else existed around them. The flirting, sex talk and pictures. The longing to see each other. He says she is the love of his life every day and that he wishes their circumstances were different. She says the same. They both agree that divorce would ruin their families and that they couldn't be that selfish. How admirable. I feel nauseous. My happiness for the past 3 years was fake. I don't know what to do. I want to hurt them. I want to expose them and I want to ruin whatever they think is perfect happiness. Hi. I'm getting chat requests about my comments not being visible. Is this normal? I'm trying to answer you guys. Sorry. Hi again. Since I can't comment and I can't answer all the chats, I will answer here. I am 35. My husband is 39. We have 2 children, 9 and 7. She is 40 and she has 1 child, 14. She is in a dead bedroom with her husband too and for 14 years. The affair is physical too, yes, but they meet maybe once every month or every other month. She tells my husband that what they feel is probably limerence, but that they don't know it yet because they meet so little. She lives in another city. Update: my husband left me after I told his mistress's husband about their affair. I was here some weeks ago with my original post. I finally decided that I really should reach out to the husband of my husband's mistress. I found him easily and I contacted him. He didn't believe me at first and was rude about it and told me to go F myself. I hesitated to contact him again, to be honest, but after a few days I realized that I would too not believe a stranger just popping in my DMs accusing me so of cheating, so I recorded my husband's phone with my phone. Especially the messages where she sent explicit photos and stuff. I also went to the contact to show the number. He didn't answer me the first day, then he called me the C word and blocked me. I thought, well then, I have done my part and it's on him if he believed me or not. Then after a week my husband came home angry and he yelled at me for exposing them. He asked me why I didn't confront him instead. My problem was with him. I have never seen him yell like this. Then he packed a bag and left for about a week. I think he's traveled to her. When he got home he said that it was over. He said that he has been trying to make me happy for years and he's done everything a good husband would do, but still, nothing was good enough for me. I've made him miserable for years, and instead of taking it out on him, I chose to hurt a woman and her child. He moved to his parents' house and now he's renting an apartment. I have heard that he travels the weeks he doesn't have the children to be with her, and that she's moving here soon when she gets full custody of her child. I have not been feeling well at all. He has never spoken to me directly since he left, and I haven't seen him. He adamantly refuses to talk to me, like I never existed in his life. I don't know what I have done to deserve this treatment. I hate that they won. I want full custody of my children after he went and beat up his mistress's husband within an inch of his life and ended up in jail. This morning I got a call from my mother-in-law that my husband has been in jail for the past couple of days and only got out this morning, but the charges weren't dropped. Apparently his mistress and her husband had another altercation last weekend and she ended up hurt again. Now I want full custody of my children. He is out, but charges are not dropped, so it will probably lead to some punishment. I don't know if family court would count this in case I want full custody and supervised visits. My mother-in-law was hostile when I told her this, and she's one of the people who has supported me, so I am expecting some pushback. I don't care. My wife crossed the only line I ever set with her. How can I forgive her? My wife and I have known each other for 10 years and got married in 2018. We have very different lifestyles. She's a very devout Mormon and I am not religious. We found some way to make it work. It was a hard road, but there are some challenges still, but we love each other very much. She has never met my biological mother. My parents were divorced long before I met her, and I broke contact with my mom after I turned 18. My mom was extremely abusive towards me growing up. She physically abused me and my sister regularly and tried to frame it on my father. She was able to manipulate a doctor to give me multiple medications growing up, and she'd steal the meds. Her dirt boyfriend also tried to be abusive to me too. I cut my losses and cut all contact with my mother and her family. So did my sister. My parents, dad and stepmom, didn't approve of my wife at first because of her religion, but they get along now. When my wife asked me when she'd meet my mom, I told her she never would. She's a violent and terrible woman and she has no place in my life, and I didn't want her involved in ours. I also told her not to contact anyone in my mom's family. Recently, my mom showed up at my work, which she had no knowledge of. It got ugly, and police had to be called to remove her from the property. It was such an embarrassment. When I got home, I told my wife, and she just had her "oh shit" look on her face. I asked what that was about. She confessed she reached out to my mom and told her where I worked because my mom wanted to make amends. My wife's beliefs are that everyone deserves forgiveness and doesn't believe something could be unforgivable. I told her that violated the one thing I told her was out of bounds and didn't even tell me until shit hit the fan. She of course has been apologetic. I told her we get there, but I needed to get through it. I've been sleeping in the office at home, and we've barely spoken since. We are supposed to travel to her parents for Thanksgiving, but I'm really considering staying home with the dogs so I can sort myself out. I'm not sure how to get over this. Edit, added that she's met my stepmom. She's also fully aware of what my mom did to us. TLDR, my wife connected with my abusive mom that I cut contact with, and it caused a scene at work and the police to be involved. She admitted to doing it behind my back, and I'm just beyond upset. I don't know how to forgive her. Update. I appreciate the support of those who messaged me, as well as those curious what happened. I didn't expect this to blow up. I'll give an update in chronological order, but trigger warning. Details about childhood abuse is mentioned. The original post is the only other post on my profile. Get this out of the way. Mom was served with a restraining order. She can't go on my work property, and I suffered no issues at work because of what happened. Leading up to Thanksgiving, my wife and I sat down to talk. I said I wasn't going to go to her parents for the holiday, and I think it would be best if we had some time apart. She was upset and scared because she has bad anxiety when she travels far alone. So her sister agreed to travel with her. But in this conversation, I asked to see the messages between her and my mom. My mom had bothered her for months with messages on Facebook asking how I was doing, if I was alive, and saying she doesn't get to hear from her son, ECT. That part is what got my wife to reply with an update on everything. She mentioned what I did at my work and named the place, which there's only one location in our city. I knew she had been reached out to, as me, my sister and her husband all had. But I didn't know she was constantly harassing my wife like that. Which, in the time between my mom showing up and this conversation, my mom sent several messages accusing her of setting her up, keeping her son from her, and those very pleasant messages. She went to her parents' place. I made burgers and hung out with the dogs on Thanksgiving. I went over to my dad's that Friday while everyone there was out doing Black Friday things. We hung up the Christmas lights and I told him what happened. Oddly, my dad didn't have much to say. He asked what I was gonna do. I asked him for a specific file he had and I told him I'd show her the file. Wife comes home after almost a week, and the day after, I sit her down and we have a conversation and I pull out the file. She clearly didn't intend what happened, but she asked if I was divorcing her. I said no, but she needed to have told me what happened and or blocked her. If she had insisted on messaging my mom, I should have been involved to make a more generic message. At this point, I opened the file, put it in front of her, and she went completely pale. In the file were the pictures of me the night my mom gave up custody. What happened was, we got into a fight over my grades in junior high. My mom started hitting me repeatedly to the point where her nails had started to cut my face. At this point, I was big enough to stop her. I caught her wrist and I twisted it enough to where she stopped and ran out of the house. The police were called cause my mom said I broke her wrist. I didn't. My dad picked me up, took the photos of my bruised and cut face, and my mom released custody to him. A few of these cuts left scars that are still visible on my cheek and sideburn area. After explaining what she was seeing, and she looked through what was in there, I told her she needed to understand she opened the door for my mom to have done this to me again. To my mom potentially doing that to her, and if we had any kids, they'd be at risk for the same abuse. 'Cause my mom hasn't changed, her messages were the master manipulator going after my innocent wife. She said she didn't know it was this bad and she didn't mean that to have happened. I said we needed to go to therapy as a non-negotiable and she agreed. I caught some heat from her parents for showing her the file. Her parents had me promise them I'd protect her and not ruin her innocent view of the world, I guess is the way to word it. She had a very slow grasp of real-world things that weren't very present in the church upbringing. Although, they actually agreed she shouldn't have responded to my mom, which was surprising. I did some solo therapy before we did our couples therapy. She was a little upset because I was distant during the holidays. Like I wasn't there. Apparently, I had some kind of repressed or undiagnosed PTSD and I began discassociating again after that happened, and that was why I didn't seem like I was present. I feel like we were making progress. The therapist said my wife had this subconscious desire to fix things and make her perfect family because of some issues her parents had and some issues on both sides of her family. So that was likely why she responded without checking with me. We have stopped trying for a baby for now, which she's devastated about presently cause one of my stepsisters announced she's pregnant and it really kind of hurt her cause she really wants to be a mom. We are spending time together again and sleeping in the same bed. She's tried really hard to make it up to me and she's been trying to read more about abuse and understanding those things, which is hard for her. We tried to get things back to normal throughout Christmas and New Year's. Presently we're doing our therapy every 2 weeks and I see my therapist the weeks in between. Thinking back, showing her the file with those pictures may have been a step too far. Our therapist said it was probably a lot for her to take in. But I said it in our session and I said it the night of. She needed to completely understand what door she opened and what repercussions could have come from what she did and what could happen to our, theoretical, children if she opens that door again. I'm not sure if there was an alternative to showing her that file, but I think she understands what I really went through. Now, my wife will sometimes rub the scar lines on my face and just give me this strange look. She never questioned those scars before, and she just looks at them like that sometimes. That's where we are at. I think things are salvageable, as the way things came out before, it seemed like she sought out my mom. But I think she just got played and just attempted to give my mom some peace of mind, but unintentionally made a problem that she didn't understand. Thank you again for those who reached out and offered support before. Unnecessary to read, but for context. The example my wife gave in therapy about me not being present was this. We have a tradition in the second week of December. We go out together, get breakfast, and do our Christmas shopping. Usually at Target, because she likes getting a Starbucks hot chocolate. But as we go through, she'd look back at me, and I was often just staring off in the distance or not really giving full answers, and I admitted I didn't remember most of what we did that day. Which she was sad, because that's one of the things about the holidays she most looks forward to, is that day together.